Welcome to Monaco. This time I met with Hugh Wade-Jones, an expert in finance and private debt. He moved from London to Monaco a few years ago and now runs his business from an office in the Golden Square. I asked Hugh to share his experience of living and doing business in Monaco.
I moved down about 4.5 years ago now. From a taxation point of view, the UK started to become increasingly unattractive. My wife is Portuguese. The weather in London for me was bad, but for her was a problem, like a real problem. When you move down here, you actually realise all the other things, like the streets are jet washed every morning and they're pristine clean when you wake up. Your bins are collected every evening. It's not a cheap place to come and live. It's probably one of the trickiest things is actually housing, where you want to be and finding the right apartment at the right price as well. Housing is expensive, probably the most expensive in the world, price per square metre. But day to day, I don't find too bad. You can be fairly self-sufficient. The money saved in tax is vast. There's a huge network of entrepreneurs and individuals that are down here. I think Monaco is a fantastic place to orchestrate or coordinate a business from. So I moved from London to Monaco for a variety of factors. A little bit cliched, but obviously a lot of the reason a lot of people come here from a taxation point of view. And the UK started to become increasingly unattractive, and that direction of travel has continued in the last few years. Obviously, the budget we've just had delivered has seen a big move as well. The lifestyle, my wife is Portuguese, born in Brazil, but Portuguese. National and lived in Portugal. So for her, it's more continental lifestyle down here. The weather in London for me was bad, but for her was a problem, like a real problem. So, tax, weather. And I think it's probably when you move down here, you actually realise all the other things which maybe you had put behind the obvious financial benefits, the security, the cleanliness, just the quality of life for people that you bump into. So I think most people are driven by one or two factors, usually financial, but end up probably being attracted for many others.
What surprised you most about Monaco? What is the most different between Monaco and London?
I think the thing that surprised me most about being in Monaco probably was actual just quality of life, which maybe sounds like an obvious statement and maybe something which people would assume is there, but small things like the streets are jet washed every morning and they're pristine clean when you wake up. Your bins are collected every evening. So somebody likened it to sort of living on a film set at night. It's kind of everything looks very perfect. And I think that's something that you become used to very quickly. And maybe whilst London has fantastic social life and great personal things, that you start to realise that maybe the underlying items which can dramatically improve your day-to-day aren't there or there, but at a lower level.
How difficult it was to find the right place to live here in Monaco?
Yeah, finding somewhere to live in Monaco is tricky. I think I moved just before the full lockdown with COVID. So the first apartment I moved into was done effectively by FaceTime. It didn't end up so well, so we moved. And an apartment I moved into, I was very happy, ultimately got sold by the owners. So I think in Monaco it is tricky because firstly, there's little supply of quality products. Secondly, it's a very heavy rental system. So sometimes you'll find you move quite often. And where we've settled now is somewhere where we have a 3-year lease, option to extend to 5. And so I think everyone probably has those initial first few years where you're bouncing around a bit and trying to find the area that you like or find the apartment that you like and understanding. So it's probably one of the trickiest things when you move to Monaco is actually housing, where you want to be and finding the right apartment at the right price as well.
Which area of Monaco do you live now in?
So I live literally about 100 metres from Casino Square. So I'm very central now.
Golden Square.
Yes, but I had lived, for all the time I was down here in Fontvieille, which I love. Very beautiful part of Monaco, a bit slower pace, but my offices have moved, as you know, from Fontvieille to centre of town. So I've been here now for a short period of time and I like it. I like the ability to walk everywhere. And there's a real buzz around the place. So far, so good here. And but if not, my sort of spiritual home or my initial home was in Fontvieille. So it's a great place of parks and obviously the heliport. You're very quickly out into France.
So was it hard for you to get the Monaco residency coming from London?
I got quite lucky with residency in as much as I moved down about 4.5 years ago now. So I was before Brexit, the Brexit vote. So I didn't have to go through the whole process I think people do now from the UK of visas and then residency. I also had a business which was established here and running, which I had a shareholding in, and I was the gérant or the manager in. So the process for me was relatively easy. I'd had an office here, I'd spent time down here, so I had connections. But certainly if you were looking to move here and you didn't have those connections or somebody that can facilitate them for you, it's a tricky place to come, because if nothing else, it's a French bureaucratic society in French.
So would you recommend to hire someone or to get a professional legal assistance to get a residency, to go through the process?
I was fortunate, as I said, I had contacts, I knew lawyers, I knew accountants, I had a business here. I was in the system to a certain extent. But I think if you're coming fresh here, look, it's not a cheap place to come and live. And the cost of hiring someone or engaging with someone to do that for you is minimal and compared to the time you'll save, but also probably in the long run, actually the money that you'll end up spending.
Comparing to the UK, how expensive is the life in Monaco?
This is a strange one. I think people think Monaco is this sort of uber expensive, opulent world, and it is. I mean, if you want to go and drink cocktails in the Hotel de Paris, and you can spend whatever you like. But the reality is, actually, I find housing is expensive. So rent is very expensive. I mean, I think it's pretty well documented. It's probably the most expensive in the world, price per square meter. But day to day, I don't find too bad. I shop in the Carrefour, which is a supermarket. I'm working, I'm not sort of eating out at lavish dinners every evening. So I find probably sometimes when I go to London, I'll end up spending more money on taxis and dinners and running here, there and everywhere and shopping, where Monaco, I think you can be fairly self-sufficient. So it's really not as expensive as you think once you've factored in the rent perspective. And obviously, the money saved in tax is vast if you're earning at a certain level. So I would see it as a sort of financially positive place in terms of lifestyle and spending.
Actually, it's interesting. You mentioned, having cocktail in Hotel de Paris.
Yeah.
I wrote your post that you haven't drunk alcohol for 11 years.
Correct,
and
yes.
we have perception about Monaco, that people, it's having a party time, all the time from morning till evening.
Yeah.
So how comfortable is for you to live in Monaco where people constantly partying?
Yeah, look, personally very comfortable. After 11 years, it's second nature not doing so. My experience in Monaco has not been as a party place. Again, a bit like in anywhere in the world, if you want to go and party, you want to do this or you can do that, everything is catered for. But generally, what I find in the sort of high net worth community or amongst people that I would deal with who I'd consider successful or, kind of people aspiring for success in this kind of environment is healthy living now is paramount. People are really focusing on that, longevity. And so, but not drinking, not only here in Monaco, but globally, is far more acceptable. People are far more accommodating with it and themselves, I think, following suit. That kind of heavy boozing is not really a thing and maybe seen almost more as a British trait really than something you see on continental Europe.
Does Monaco have any disadvantages?
Yes, Monaco has disadvantages like anywhere. I think you touched on it, rental and accommodation is tricky. So once you're in, you got the place you like, it's done, but it can be a bit disorientating. The needing to move or difficulty in finding quality apartments. If you're not French speaking, which I'm not, obviously a lot of the bureaucracy is in French. So that can be tricky. And maybe it doesn't have some of the services or sort of transportation. No, transportation is unfair. The buses are very good. It's easy to move around, but it's a smaller place. So if you're used to coming from Singapore or London or New York, there'll probably be downsides that you don't have TK Maxx, you don't have a Boots or John Lewis or Waitrose on every corner. But once you factor that into your lifestyle, then the upside far outweighs the downsides.
Would you like to return to London one day?
I don't think so. To live, I'm very happy here. I think I would probably find it quite tricky from a fiscal point of view to go from living in a tax-free location to going back to kind of what's the kind of on the financial table in London. I spend a lot of time there. I sold my house in London recently, having been out of the country for 3 or 4 years. It's somewhere I probably will buy again. Will buy real estate again. But will I live there as a home? I probably doubt it. I've got probably too used to the good weather down here to be out there full time.
Doing business in Monaco, how was it for you?
Monaco's been great for business for myself personally. I think it's a slower burn. I think in London, which is my kind of reference point for doing business, you can knock on 1,000 doors a day and you can find 50 people that you'll do business with, and you can develop relationships and business in quite a sort of proactive way. I think you have to be respectful here that it's people's homes. So quite often their business isn't in Monaco. Maybe it's in Cyprus, it's in London, it's in New York, it's in Moscow, it's wherever. And so, you can't go knocking on doors and sort of in the same manner that you might do in your early days of a business. So it's a bit more relaxed. But the networking is excellent. I think slowly you start to piece together who fits where and your little network of people. And it's very easy. I met you, on the side of the Hotel Hermitage, and I was 20 meters away in the lobby before having a meeting there.
So what is your new business venture?
So new business is a company called Phenom, which is effectively a financial group, we have a number of sectors. So the first one is asset management, which generally follows an FX options trading strategy. That's been running for a few years within the business now, and is a FINMA regulated asset management business. It's a Luxembourg fund which focuses on private equity investment, which has again been running for a few years. And I've come in effectively to grow the debt arm, so private debt and lending, which is obviously my background. So it's a short-term lending business. So we're looking at lending on real estate globally, to companies, to stocks, to shares, planes and boats. And we're looking at lending money typically between 5 million, 250 million is our sweet spot.
What countries you are mainly focusing on?
Naturally, my business sort of gravitates towards the countries which I have an understanding of or have been resident in. So obviously we focused heavily on the UK, we do a lot of business down here in the south of France, in Monaco, but also look, Spain, Balearics, Cyprus, but can look globally really. So we have looked at real estate in the US, have looked at real estate across Europe.
Middle East?
We would consider the Middle East and Dubai. I think it's a region that we're interested in. I think everyone's interested at the moment from a business perspective. I think it would be somewhere probably maybe wouldn't be a direct focus of all our business, but I think if the right opportunity came along on some real estate or sort of some kind of opportunity out there, then we would certainly consider it.
There is a perception if you want to build a big business, a global business, you need to be in New York or London. What do you think? Is it possible to grow a business being here in Monaco?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think most businesses or business owners that I know that live down here obviously have their businesses in large international locations, but it's a very easy place to do business within. There's a huge network of entrepreneurs and individuals that are down here, and it's a very easy place to move from. So if you I was in London yesterday and the day before. It's an hour and a half flight. It's very simple. Yeah, look, I think the way the world is now is a sort of what they call a helicopter view looking down. I think Monaco is a fantastic place to orchestrate or coordinate a business from.
I'm always wondering, in Monaco, it's a place where there are all super wealthy people living. Why should someone come to you and look for a short-term bridging loan or look for lending?
Yeah, so look, short-term finance or bridging finance, as people view it, can be a product that's used in distress. So sometimes it's viewed negatively from that point of view, that it's a kind of a last resort, if you like. And obviously that's never something that people enjoy having effectively being forced into taking. And that exists for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's it's not just a lack of cash that people have to take it. But I think also at the moment, yourself, it's very difficult to move money freely around the world. So vast majority of entrepreneurs have lots of assets or money is tied up in their business, but maybe have a need for liquidity quickly. And I think that's where we can come in and solve headaches, but also within opportunity. People have the opportunity to acquire companies or acquire shares or acquire properties at a discount for whatever reason. And the need to be able to close quickly in 2, 3, 4 weeks versus 2, 3, 4 months means that the kind of trade-off of price is one that's worth taking. It can be anything from distress. and that's just I guess a necessary evil or part of the business. But what we're seeing increasingly, especially down here in high net worth areas, is that you have people who just have their allocation of funds is such at the time that they can't allocate 5, 10, 15, 20 million to a project or to a purchase. And so the ability for someone like me to come in and plug that gap and sort of create cash flow or create cash for a venture is key.
I know more and more people who keep part of their assets in cryptocurrencies, but at the same time they experience many problems. If you want to transfer money, if you need to pay for real estate or I don't know for some other assets. So the question is, can they borrow money against their cryptocurrency?
Yeah, look, I mean, crypto isn't an area that I'm an expert in by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly, as you said, a lot of people now have quite significant holdings in crypto for whatever reason. They've either seen it as an investment class or they've seen it as an easier way for them to hold and to move money. There are a number of ways that people can monetize that, either through some crypto-friendly banks, which we will help them out, or direct lending against them. And it is in the right circumstances something we would consider lending on ourselves as an asset class.
We had some weird years, behind. I mean, COVID and inflation grows, interest rates grows. What about lending business today? What is your forecast? Is it still kind of promising?
It's an interesting question. I think, I've been in the lending business for the best part of 2 decades
Almost
now.
Forever.
Yeah. I'm not that old, but yeah, I always use the UK real estate market as a sort of my kind of base, if you like. It's the market that I know the best. And I've been through, as you have, the credit crunch in 2007 was when I first started my business. The Brexit vote, Brexit proper when we did leave, COVID. And all through these events, you think that that's going to be the catalyst for a fall in house prices in London. I classify London and the rest of the UK very differently. And prices continue to rise or stay stable. So my forecast probably for the next 5 years, whilst we have a Labour government in, is that prices will be stable. I don't think any better than stable. So I probably think if one is looking for growth or opportunity, that there are better places, using Western Europe or Europe as an example. Touch on in Portugal. I'm a big believer in Portugal and sort of real estate there. We spoke earlier about Cyprus and the opportunity and the kind of the buzz and the sort of the hub and the international network that's growing there. If one is looking for growth or opportunity, I would probably look at maybe Portugal or Cyprus as areas that might be interesting. I think if one were looking for safety and security or just longevity, then Monaco, London, the kind of usual favourites will still be here and doing well in 10, 15, 20 years' time as well.
So, do you want to move and do business in Monaco? Please write in the comments. And if you need help relocating to Monaco, please message me. All the contacts are in the video description. And like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you in Monaco.